If I asked you to sit down right now and through sheer willpower choose to be disgusted by the person that you love the most, could you do it? If I told you to decide that your dominant hand is now your non-dominant hand and that your brain should instantly rewire its motor cortex to accommodate that choice, would it work? Of course not, because we don't choose the architecture of our nervous system. Sorry, guys, we don't. And yet, for decades, we have built entire political platforms and social dogmas around the absurd premise that LGBTQ plus individuals simply woke up one day and opted in to a marginalized existence. Yeah, right. Let's not be stupid. Today, we're going to perform a psychological autopsy on the choice myth. We're going deep into the prenatal hormone theory, the INAH3 region of the hypothalamus, and epigenetic signaling that happens before you even take your first breath. Sorry, rhetoric guys. Sorry, fake scientist guys. By the end of this hour, I'm going to show you why the science suggests that being gay or being trans is as chosen as the color of your freaking eyes or the fact that you're right-handed. And I'm going to point out the glaring, logical fallacy. If homosexuality is a choice, then you, the heterosexual listener, must have sat down at the age of 5 and consciously decided to be attracted to the opposite sex. If that sounds as stupid to you as it does to me, it's because it is. That's ridiculous. Come on. Stay with me, because halfway through, I'm going to reveal the Fraternal Birth Order Effect and how a mother's immune system can actually track the number of male fetuses she's carried. Plant that thought, nerds. But first, guys, let's go ahead and start with the science of attraction, baby. Come on now. You know I love this stuff. I love the attraction relationship psychology. Guys, in the 1990s, there was this neurobiologist, right? Real famous guy, Simon LeVay. And he performed a landmark study on the interstitial nuclei of the anterior hypothalamus, the INAH-3. Now, this is a tiny little cluster of neurons, right, that is typically twice as large in heterosexual men as it is in women. All right. And what LeVay found is that in gay men, the INAH-3 was actually significantly smaller, averaging the same size as it does in heterosexual women. Biological marker. Now, what about the functional brain? What about the SCN and the amygdala? Because research using fMRIs, they show that the amygdala, the brain's emotional processing center, it's actually wired differently across the spectrum. Another part of the brain that's different. In gay men, the amygdala's connectivity patterns resemble those of straight women. Wow! In lesbian women, they resemble those of straight men. Thanks, science. Thanks for some clarity. But what about pheromone processing? A study by Savick et al. In 2005 demonstrated that when gay men were exposed to a testosterone-derived chemical, their hypothalamus activated in exact the same pattern as a straight woman's. Their brains weren't acting gay. They were physiologically responding to male signals as a biological target. Thanks, brain. Thanks, brain science. Now, let's get into the choice logic. The one that everyone likes to say, it's a choice. If this were a lifestyle preference, we wouldn't see these structural differences in the brain's deep, primitive regions. Idiots. You cannot will your hypothalamus to change its size. And to suggest otherwise is to ignore the very foundations of neurobiology. It is time we stop treating a biological reality like a moral failing. Got it? Look, if you want to understand how deep biology actually goes, just look at the statistics. Statistics, not your little anecdotal stories. One of the most common myths is that gay parents raise gay kids. You want to know what the data says? It says the exact opposite. In fact, extensive longitudinal studies, over a long period of time, they show that the vast majority of LGBTQ plus individuals are born to heterosexual parents. Yeah. Statistically, the likelihood of a child being gay is essentially the same regardless of the parent's orientation, proving that sexuality is a biological trait that emerges, not a social habit that's learned. Sorry, church people. Uh-oh. Wrong again. And then there's the Fraternal Birth Order Effect, right? This is one of the most well-documented phenomenon in sex research. For every older brother that a man has, this is no joke, this is statistically relevant, guys. For every older brother that a man has, the probability of him being gay increases by roughly 33%. Clutch the pearls, ladies! What's the mechanism? The leading hypothesis? It's the maternal immune hypothesis. Okay, the maternal immune hypothesis. When a mother carries a male fetus, right, her body reacts to the Y-linked proteins, specifically the NLGN4Y protein. And by the time she carries a third or fourth son, her immune system produces antibodies that cross the placental barrier, and they alter the masculinization of the fetus's brain. They actually alter the masculinization of the fetal brain. Uh-oh, guys. You mean this stuff happened before birth? Who knew? Oh, wait, scientists knew. And what's the result here? The physical body develops as male, but the neural pathways for attraction and things like this, they are formatted differently. This isn't a choice made by the child. It is a biological response from the mother's own immune system before birth. And I don't care what kind of science you guys come with, this is all peer-researched, peer-reviewed, and documented empirically. The fingerprint of biology is strong, guys. Even something as small as the 2D, 4D digit ratio. The length of your index finger versus your ring finger, in other words, this can be a marker of prenatal testosterone exposure. Statistics actually show that lesbian women often have masculinized digit ratios, indicating they were exposed to higher levels of testosterone in the womb. This is a physical record, guys. This is written in bone of who they were actually supposed to be when they were born. And it all happened before they were born. And I don't care, again, what you have to say about this. Your opinion doesn't matter. Science matters. And that is what science shows over and over and over again. So stop with the rhetoric and stop with your belief systems and focus on something that actually matters, like science. We have got to approach the T in the LGBTQ plus with specific compassion and scientific rigor, right? Because these people have been going through it because of politicians, right? Because of social media that's incorrect. And as we saw in our previous research, right? Transgender identity is not a feeling. It is a neural misalignment. Guys, the cortical mapping shows this, right? In neuroimaging studies, certain regions of the brain involved in things like body ownership, right? Self-perception, the bed nucleus of stria terminalis, the BSTC. This shows patterns in trans individuals that align more closely with their gender identity than their actual biological sex. In other words, their brain looks more like how they're feeling about their gender than what their, penis or vagina is showing. And what is the BSTC? Well, in a study by Chow et al., the volume of the BSTC in trans women assigned male at birth, right? For those of you not in the know, it was actually found to be within the female range. All right. There's also the white matter of the brain of a trans individual. fMRI scans of trans adolescents before hormone therapy show that the white matter microstructure in their brains, it already resembles the gender they identify with. Here again, science shows us the truth. What about the self-othered interface? The brain has a map of the body, all right? And for a trans person, the map, the brain, and the territory, the body, they don't match. And this causes something called gender dysphoria, which is a profound state of cognitive and emotional distress. I mean, these guys are going through it on a cognitive and emotional level. They don't need you bullying them as well. I mean, transitioning isn't playing dress up, my dudes. It is a clinical process of bringing the territory into alignment with the freaking map, so the brain can finally experience homeostasis, that level of cognitive leveling and emotional leveling that makes us feel like we are in sync with ourselves. Let them get in sync with themselves and shut up with your rhetoric. Now we have to address the ignorance tax, right? The ignorance tax, the cost of ignorance. When science is ignored in favor of political rhetoric or religious rhetoric, real people pay the freaking price with their lives. I mean, guys, according to the Trevor Project, right, LGBTQ plus individuals, especially youth, are 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than their peers. They are more likely to unalive themselves, right? Because of who they are, because society treats them like trash. This isn't because they're unstable. It's because of minority stress. Bullying statistics are staggering. Over 50% of LGBTQ plus individuals, especially students, they report being bullied at school. And those who experience high levels of rejection from their families are 8 times more likely to attempt suicide. Nice job, mom and dad. How about you treat your kid with respect and love, and that's it? Guys, we see ignorant fools in the media, right? Hateful politicians using these people as punchlines or political wedge issues. They're not wedge issues. They're human beings, all right? Christians, remember? All men were created in God's image, remember? Well, let's look at the story of Nex Benedict, a non-binary teenager in Oklahoma who died following a physical altercation in the school bathroom. I mean, this is a tragedy that happened in a climate where state officials like Ryan Walters pushed rhetoric that effectively erases the existence of trans and non-binary students. Or you look at the we're talking constant legislative attacks from people like, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, Ron DeSantis. I mean, these guys push politics that restrict medical care and target the very visibility of the community. I mean, when you tell a child they are wrong or dangerous for a biological trait they didn't choose, you aren't protecting anyone. You are participating in a psychological demolition. The blood isn't just on the hands of the bullies, it's on the hands of the adults who gave the bullies the vocabulary. Shame on you. Shame on you. You call yourselves Christians. You know what Christian is based off of? Christ. That's the root, baby. Maybe we should start acting like Christ. What would Christ do? Maybe we start looking at the New Testament rather than just the Old Testament. If the science is this clear, why is the judgment so flipping loud? It's because we are a species that fears what we cannot categorize. It is as simple as that. It is a moral fallacy, right? Societies have often used heteronormativity, right, as a survival heuristic. But we've crossed the line. We've crossed the line from biological tradition into psychological cruelty. I mean, when we tell a teenager that their orientation is a choice, we are telling them that their very brain is an enemy. Now, this doesn't sound like the true American ideal that I was brought up on. I mean, we talk a lot about freedom in this country, right? But what is more fundamental than the freedom to exist in the body and the brain that you were born with? Huh? I mean, explain it to me, guys. I mean, to judge someone for their orientation is as logically bankrupt as judging someone for being left handed or being born with a heart murmur. I mean, it is an affront to the American ideal. You are crapping on the American ideal when you attack these people for being who they are. You are destroying this whole idea of individual sovereignty that America always says is so important, but they never seem to want to back it up. We want you to be unique, kids. Just don't be unique in any way that's different from how we want you to be, kids. Shut up, politicians. Let people be who they are at birth. It's time to close the autopsy on the choice myth. The data is in. The hypothalamus doesn't freaking lie. The prenatal hormones have already signed the contract. People don't choose to be gay, bi, or trans any more than they choose to breathe. They are born into a biological tapestry that is more diverse and complex than our binary politics can handle. And just remember, you didn't choose to be heterosexual. So what would make you think they chose to be the way they are? Let's use logic the same way on all people. I'm sick of the judgment. I am sick of the judgment. I am sick of people treating their fellow Americans like errors in a spreadsheet. These are our brothers and sisters. They are soldiers. They are neighbors. They are mothers and fathers. They are people in this country, but most importantly, they are human beings. They are not the other. They are us. If you are a straight listener, remember, you didn't choose your own attraction. You just followed your nature. And all we are asking is that you afford your fellow citizens the same grace to follow theirs. We are one people. Let us protect our brothers and sisters who need that protection. Sharing one national experiment together is important, guys. And let's stop tearing the fabric of that experiment apart by attacking the way people are born. Compassion isn't just a nice feeling. It is the logical response to understanding the human condition. Let's make empathy great again. Subscribe to Planting Thoughts. I'm Mike. Stand with your fellow humans. Plant wisely.